The Disneyland Limited, now leaving for a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom. All passengers board.
Star Tours announces the boarding of the Endor Express. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To those guests who've just joined us, welcome. For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the door.
Please keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the train and remain seated at all times. Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
I am Sam, the American Eagle, and I am proud to introduce the Grand Circle Tour podcast, a celebration of Disney parks, but mostly the American ones. I really like these guys.
Hello, passengers, and welcome to another exciting adventure of the Grand Circle Tour podcast. I will be your host this evening, Bellhop George here, and we got a full house in the studio, and you know that's not a cheap ripoff of a Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen spinoff show. So, so in the studio joining me this evening is a girl that has a lot of sparkle and glitter that she could put Mariah Carey out for business. That would be Mindy. Hi, Mindy.
Hey guys.
What's up?
It's been a long time. I feel like it's been a few weeks since I've been on, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, most definitely. What's up with you?
What's up? This week I found, it kind of goes along with what Jason was talking about pre-show, but I do a lot of yard selling, and I got to find vintage salt and pepper shakers. So that was really fun, and they're Disney, so now they're in my kitchen.
Nice. It's always great when you could just find like little sudden Disney items that just take away with you.
Exactly.
You can't leave us hanging. Describe them.
Okay, so they're probably like 3 inches tall. They're just basic round things, and they have the metal lid. They're just like silver lid, but on the front is a little vintage Mickey, and then on the pepper one is a little vintage Minnie Mouse. So it's just clear glass and this little vintage picture of both the characters on it, and they're so cute. So they are now in my kitchen. I had to use them. I'm a big collector of salt and pepper like the trash can shakers, as is Stan. And we both collect them and go gaga over them, but these I am using. So I don't use my trash cans, but yeah.
Nice. And also joining us today is a famous solo, and no, it's not the red cup. It's Stan. I just have all these corny jokes for tonight, so bear with me, passengers. Stan, what's up with you?
Hey, George. Hey, gang. Yeah, I have a waltz up. It's very similar to Mindy's. And no, we do not discuss these before we go on air, but I actually went to a flea market this past weekend. And I've never been to this flea market before. A friend of mine suggested I go because he knows I like all sorts of, I'll say crap stuff. And there was a lot of stuff there. Jason, you would love it. So many albums. It was ridiculous. Anyways, this one guy, I guess he's been there for a while, and just happened to hit him on the right day where he was clearing everything for $5. Anything you want, $5.
Wow.
And he was trying to tell me, whatever you want, movie posters, he had a lot of stuff. And one thing that caught my eye was this little vintage Mickey Mouse hard plastic figurine. And he's wearing a top hat, and the original price tag on it was $14. And I said, so this would be like $5? And he goes, yeah, $5, you can have it. And I said, okay. So I gave him the $5. Here, you can have this one too. And he gave me another one for no charge. So he gave me these two little vintage, old school, probably from the 70s, I'm thinking, Mickey Mouse little figurines. So I was more than happy to get them for, basically $2.50 each. I'll post a picture on our Facebook page because one of them is from something. I'm not sure what it's from, but it's Mickey leaning against something. It's broken off from a game, or I don't know. And I'm kind of curious to know what it is. So maybe one of our passengers would know what exactly that Mickey is from.
Now, I haven't taken a look at it yet, but I'll definitely take a look. See, I might know. I mean, I wasn't born in the 70s, so I wouldn't really. And okay, sorry, passengers. I was taking a look. Nope, I have no clue. And last but not least, coming from the deep jungles of the Jungle Cruise, other than poison ivy and malaria, it's Jungle Skipper Jay.
So, speaking of Jungle Cruise, who's making corny jokes there? Bellhop George?
Oh my gosh.
It's one of those nights. So, passengers, tonight's episode, we will be discussing...
Oh, wait, I have a waltz up, actually.
Start over.
You threw me off, Jay. Cut that last part. Okay.
No.
So, Jay, you wouldn't, too. Okay.
He's going to save it, though.
It sounds good.
He's going to save it.
We did not plan this. This is so funny.
So, Jay, waltz up with you.
So I have a new playlist in my phone titled Hollywood 1939.
Oh, that's my kind of playlist.
So I went and I got the list online of all the songs they used in the Tower of Terror queue. I bought them all on iTunes.
Oh, that's fun.
It makes a great reading playlist. And it's nice to hear them without all the echo and reverb and have them made spooky. It's nice to hear them as just big band.
Yeah.
So all your waltz up ended up you guys walking away with something.
No.
Well, if you're coming after my cheesy jokes, I'm coming after your cue.
And I would have to say, passengers, my waltz up this past week, I got to see a special early screening of Mary Poppins Returns. And I did write a small little spoiler-free synopsis on the Grand Circle Tour Facebook page. Didn't give a whole lot of detail, but I will definitely say it's a must to see this movie when it comes out December 19th. Everyone, take your family, take your kids, your husband, your wife, your grandparents. Everyone should go see this movie. And that's all I will say.
Yeah, it's not even out yet, and I already know it's my favorite movie of the year.
Oh, just by the trailers were amazing. And honestly, it's one of those things where the trailers doesn't do the movie justice or vice versa, but this time it really did. And I will definitely.
I am so excited to see Mary Poppins. She's my absolute favorite Disney character, and I just love Mary Poppins. I love her.
And it's a shame that within the parks that she doesn't have her own section or her own ride. I mean, the only thing that they really had of Mary Poppins as an animatronic was her and Bert in the Great Movie Ride, which isn't there anymore. Speaking of animatronics, sorry, Mindy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hear the rumor is, though, that they're going to be building a Mary Poppins attraction in Epcot.
Yes, if this movie turns out the way the company thinks, that most definitely they said it was supposed to go in the UK pavilion.
That's so cool.
Yes.
If you guys go back and watch the Disneyland Centennial, Walt says no celebration at Disneyland is ever going to be complete without Mary Poppins.
Yep.
So you should see her there every single day.
And the dancing cake legs.
And I still think that they should stick with Tony Baxter's original concept with the carousel, where it kind of goes off the carousel and move into three-dimensional space. Yeah. That would be cool. So as I was saying, I was mentioning of a Mary Poppins animatronic, and lo and behold, that's what this adventure is all about. We will be talking about one of the things that makes Disney so unique to any typical amusement park. And inside their attractions, they're themed, and majority of the rides have audio animatronics, which entertains guests every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And since the very beginning, from Walt himself, he wanted to take something that was on the page of his animated movies and bring it to life for his guests in the park. And that's exactly what he did. And as the years went on, they progressed and became so lifelike. And there's like so many different animatronics on all the parks throughout the whole, in the domestic and international. So I thought for tonight that I would get all your guys' opinion on what's the best animatronic through categories. So I will give a category. Like I'll start off with the classic animatronic, and we'll go down the line and see what you guys think is the best animatronic that fits that category. Sound good? All right. So we'll start, as I said, with classic animatronics. So this will be like more towards the early days when Walt Disney was around, when animatronics was first coming out into the public. So I will start with you, Jay.
I'm going to stick to my homeland of Adventureland, and I'm going to give it to the entire cast of the Enchanted Tiki Room.
Gotta love the tiki birds.
Well, they were the first, and I love that click-clacking sound. I have to do the tiki birds every time I go to get my Dole Whip.
It's like a good combination, like with the Dole Whip and the tiki. It's just like the tiki room. It just fits in well. And I love how with the tiki room, it meshes well with how Walt saw, as I mentioned, taking it from the paper and bringing it into the real world, where the plants, the birds, everything just came alive with the music and the sound and everything. And it actually relaxes me. I've actually fallen asleep several times in there, not by being bored, not by being bored, but just by, it was just so soothing to me. Yeah, I actually forgot that the Tiki Birds were the very first audio animatronics, and I remember going to Destination D that Richard Sherman was explaining the story of how the attraction came to be, where Walt showed him a little bird cage with a little bird in it, and he says, "You're going to make a song for this." So that was awesome. Stan, what would be your classic animatronic?
That's kind of hard to pick because there's so many great ones, but I'm going to go. I was thinking, the original, the very first Abraham Lincoln animatronic was the one I was kind of thinking of, the first human one. But you know what? I got to go with Carousel of Progress, and just the animatronics in there. They still hold up today. I don't believe any of them have been. I mean, they've been updated, but none of them have been completely replaced, as far as I know. And they're still going, and they're still, I just imagine being back in what was it, 1964 World's Fair, and seeing those for the first time, how the audience members must have been just completely blown away. That's something that I every time I watch that show, I put myself back to that time and that mindset, thinking what would people think of when they first saw these. Jason?
Stan, I have to contest what you say, because I've been on the Carousel of Progress with you, and that's the Carousel of Nap. How did you see the animatronics?
So
I've seen it more. I haven't slept through the entire thing every time.
How was that first scene?
So is that the storyline, or is that from the movement of the attraction that just puts you to sleep?
That was the pure exhaustion and the Florida heat. It was what that was.
No, I have to agree with you, because the Carousel of Progress is my all-time favorite attraction involving the audio animatronics, just like with the storyline and how many that they incorporate just within that show itself is just amazing. And I love that show. I do. And Mindy, what is your all-time favorite classic animatronic?
Okay, I'm going to go history here, because it's pretty amazing, and it's the great moments with Mr. Lincoln. Okay, so there's a lot of history behind that, and Walt built it, and it had, when they first built them, they had a red dye inside of them to make these animatronics, and the story goes that he started leaking on stage, and everybody thought it was like bleeding. So everyone's like, wow, it's so real. No, it just broke down. So, but I love it. It's something that you go into now. It's and there aren't very many people that go see this animatronic, but it's very historical, and it's really cool. You get to put on like your like headphones and be able to hear. I know they did that once upon a time, but you get your hair cut and you hear all these sounds, and you're really put into the animatronic, and being able to see it that Walt built it is pretty cool to me. So great moments with Mr. Lincoln and Lincoln himself.
Nice. I have a confession to make that I've been to Disneyland several times, but I have not made it my business to actually go in there and see that yet.
It's really cool. You're probably going to be the one of 5 people in there, but
Mindy, we're gonna force him in.
Let's. You can't go to Disneyland and not go in there. I think
just like as like we're passing, because I'm just so used to just walking. You could just gently just like nudge me and just like kind of.
You sit on his left, I'll sit on his right, and he can't move.
Yeah. The best part, in going in there, it's really historical. There's a lot of cool things on the walls, a lot of history. There's a huge map that's made with mini figurines, and it's a massive behind glass. There's original tickets in there before you go into the show. All the pictures that Bob Gurr drew are on the walls of the all the Main Street vehicles. There's so many cool things to see in there, and people just walk by it. The original bench that came from Griffith Park is in there, along with one of the carousel horses. And I'd gone to Griffith Park to go on a tour with Bob Gurr, and you couldn't sit on the bench that was at Griffith Park. There's one there too. And it says Walt's bench, where he thought up Disneyland. Well, I had gone into the one in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and one of the cast members was looking at me, gawing over this bench, and she moved the rope, and she's like, go sit down on it and take a picture. So I have a picture of me sitting on the famous bench, and it really means a lot to me, but it's inside the Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln. So don't pass by it, you guys. It's definitely an eye-opener to history.
So you won't have to push me in there, Jay. If I ever had the chance to sit on the bench, I'd be like first in line to do that.
Yeah, it's right by the door at the entrance. You can't miss it.
Awesome. All right. So now we're moving on to, we did classic, so now we're going to do innovative animatronics. Animatronics that when you look at them, they're just so lifelike that you actually think that they're a real person or a real, something that can stand the test of time.
Okay. So
I will go back to Jay.
I'm going to give it to C-3PO over at Star Tours. Because, he doesn't move a lot, but it is C-3PO straight off the screen and put right in front of you. And the way he turns to you and looks at the audience members in line, it's like he's making eye contact with you. And now that he's your pilot.
Yeah, he's pretty legit, huh? You're right.
And he was actually given to Disney by George Lucas to use in the Star Tours attraction. So that's a actual costume from Star Wars that you see when you're on the Star Tours attraction.
And the same thing goes with R2-D2.
Yes.
That was an actual prop that George Lucas.
And the Imagineers basically built the animatronics around, or made it so that it would fit the costume.
That is so cool.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I just learned something.
And they're animatronic Star Wars characters. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? I mean...
Yeah, my favorite thing about it is it's like he stepped, or more like hobbled as he walks off screen, and there he is in front of you.
Yeah. Stan, what would be yours?
So for innovation, I'm going to go with the newest one that is kind of blowing everybody's mind, and that is in the Nahi River Journey, in Avatar and Animal Kingdom. The fluidness of that animatronic is something that we've never really seen before, and there's been plenty of fluid animatronics over the past few years. Hopper in Bug's Life is one. The Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin Buzz is a very, very fluid animatronic, but nothing seems to quite match up with the shaman in the Nahi River Journey for myself.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Like, when I saw her the first time, I actually at first thought it was a performer. Like, I had to do like a double take just the movement that she was doing. And I heard a lot of people say that most of the budget went into that one animatronic for that ride.
Yeah, you
Wow.
can believe it. And apparently it takes them 8 hours to make 1 second of movement for the that animatronic.
That's some dedication.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought of the greatest ride ever. The Jungle Cruise goes down the Nahi River.
But also going back to the Navi River journey, now I have heard that they had some complications with her, that when they do and she's down, they put her up on a screen or something.
Yeah, in the background they'll put a screen up to replace while they operate or work on the animatronic, which is kind of scary because this is a pretty new animatronic, and for them to have problems with it already, I kind of smell the Yeti coming when I hear stuff like that. At least they're able to actually repair her and put her back in where she belongs. Yeah,
because when I first heard that, I thought, already? It's like, oh, come on. And this was at the time before I got to experience the ride, so I thought, I don't want to go in there and see a screen.
Yeah,
it's like most of the ride is a screen, so I mean, I at least want to see one animatronic.
And at least it wasn't, Disco Shaman, where they put a flashing light up instead. They actually had a screen for you to look at. Actually, the screen looked pretty good. With the backup that they have is a pretty good backup.
Nice. And Mindy, what is your innovative animatronic?
Okay, so what comes to my mind is Johnny Depp's character of Captain Jack Sparrow on Pirates of the Caribbean. We can love to hate him, or they trash the ride after they added him. I don't know. It goes both ways. We've both heard it. But I can say that Johnny Depp does sometimes appear inside of the attraction to pretend to be an animatronic, and people can't tell the difference. So I think that's really funny that he does that and tries to interact with the guests aboard the attraction. But the animatronic that they have of him, it's pretty real, which is sad because it makes all the other ones look a little less real because they're authentic and old and history, and they put these brand spanking new animatronics in at the time, and he looked so lifelike you could pick him out, from all the rest of them. But it's pretty cool to see how lifelike it looks, and it is of Johnny Depp. So that's
there's nothing wrong with the animatronics of the lady chasing the pirate with the broom
on the wheel, just going around.
Very realistic.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, Pirates is one of the attractions where they did combine like the many different aspects of the animatronics. Like you just got ones that just look so real and lifelike and moving, and then you got the ones that are on a rotator.
Exactly.
There's
so many different things to see in there, but Captain Jack Sparrow is a really cool animatronic, and being able to see him as you go up the waterfall, if you will, it's really neat to see him sitting on the chair to the left and singing yo ho, a pirate's life for me. And
actually, they did a great job with the redheaded pirate as well.
Yeah, that one looks amazing.
Yeah, she's very smooth as well, as was the original auctioneer that they had before.
Yeah.
Animatronic as well.
Pirates does have some incredible animatronics.
Yeah.
And for people that are on the fence about Red, the first time I saw her, I was all in. She's great.
I'm really sad they could have put it back to where it said we wants the redhead. I am really disappointed that it doesn't say that, because somehow it could have mixed it in there, because that's kind of...
Well, the scene would have been more interesting. Sorry. Yeah. It would have been more interesting if they only changed the redhead, so it was still an auction for women, and she was selling them off, and they're like, no, we want you, pirate.
Yeah. Something to where it said that. I mean, it is a great animatronic. Her clothes are smashing. I love them, but it's not the same without screaming, we wants the redhead.
Well, my wife is a redhead, so I already got the redhead. So
They should have kept it and have her threaten the pirates after saying it.
Yeah.
She should have
Sad.
shot them. And
Like, yeah, like take like a fire like up in the air, and it's like, back off.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pirates is one of those rides that you just have to go in. I mean, it's just an all-around fun ride, but I mean, the animatronics that make up that ride is just awesome. So we went through classic animatronics.
What about yours, George?
What's that?
What about yours?
I was going to go through, like, at the very end, like, I'll go through.
Oh, you're waiting to judge ours and get the best ones.
Yes. You spoiled my scheme.
Dan's at home giving us points right now.
Yeah.
But he's giving us all the same amount of points.
Well, no. See, what I was doing was I'm keeping tabs, like, on a ballot of what you guys are saying, and then I'm going to send it to Dan, and then you'll get a personal email of what he
How many points we have.
Like, yeah.
What does it take to get the gold star?
So we went through the classic animatronics. We went through the innovative animatronics that are just awesome to look at, that you could just keep on going back on and seeing. So now let's take a stroll down the animatronics that sound great on paper, but are just a complete disaster when it actually comes to being built. So we'll call it the underwhelming animatronic.
Okay.
Start with you, Jay.
Oh, the hate I shall receive. Ariel, the Little Mermaid. She looks terrible. You have one of
hate.
No.
Wait, hang on, which Ariel are you referring to in particular? There's several.
All of them in the Little Mermaid ride, but especially in the Under the Sea scene, you have one of the best moments in that whole film. The animation of basically her body is swirling tail to hair. Instead, you've got the leftover Disney Store display with the flappy mouth.
Well, the very last Ariel is very smooth. One where her and Prince Eric.
Yeah, because she's a porcelain doll.
Dan, it's awful. Her head is the size of a bowling ball, and her waist is like 3 inches. It's totally disproportioned, and I crack up at it all the time. It's this little 3-foot animatronic, and its head is like life size, and its body literally is so tiny. I'm like, can you not get the proportions right? It's so horrible. It's horrendous.
I like the last Ariel.
I have 2 comments on Ariel. The first one is, if you look at her face throughout the entire ride, she reminds me of the Bride of Chucky. First.
Okay, now it'll be like every time we go on that attraction now.
So it's just like, you might as well take the red hair off, put a blonde wig on, and just call her Tiffany.
Oh my god.
And then the other thing was, during the Under the Sea scene where they attempted to try to fix her hair, do you guys remember the first one that it was just sticking?
Yeah.
I called that like the Dairy Queen look, because it just looked like a Dairy Queen cherry dip ice cream. I would have preferred them to have more like just almost like real hair, but just have it like floating. Like if there's like a fan that they could have put like in the back of her neck to make it look like it was floating underwater.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
It's too rubbery.
Yeah, for this great dance number Under the Sea where everything's supposed to be moving, she's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And even the mouth, it's like a ventriloquist face too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Maleficent in not Maleficent.
Wait, did we just body shame a teenager?
The Ursula animatronic in that same attraction is very, very well done.
Unless its head falls off.
And there were people legitimately upset, and they said, "Oh, we didn't know what we had to tell our kids and all that." It's like, you just explain. It's a ride. Things happen. It was a malfunction. Ursula just needed a facelift at the moment, so she's
a magical sea witch. She can do anything.
That was a very, very interesting conversation. I'll probably never experience that ride the same again. Stan, what about you? Underwhelming animatronic.
Well, we have to give it to the king of the underwhelming animatronics, and that's got to be. I mentioned him earlier, the Yeti. I can't think of another animatronic in the Disney community where there was more people. I never even ride the attraction. I never will ride the attraction, but even I want it fixed. You know,
Disco Yeti is well and alive. They kind of have. There's a joke about that all they did was put a strobe light on him. So it's my husband has a shirt that says Disco Yeti. It's really funny. So because he dances in the spotlight.
And that's the best repair they can come up with is putting
Disco
a strobe
Yeti
light on him. So the hype, and I remember first time going to Disney World or doing research for Disney World and watching these videos, and that was like the year that the attraction first opened, and that was like the big thing at Disney World was this, you know, larger than life animatronic, and it just didn't hold up.
Go to YouTube and type in Disco Yeti. There's a true song about him, and it's hilarious. It's so funny.
I was about to ask, has anybody on the ride sing Disco Duck but change it to Disco Yeti?
Disco Yeti. There's a song.
Yeah, that's just a shame with the Yeti, because I kind of put him in a category of like right in the middle, because if he was working, he was one of the best visual stunning audio animatronics that they ever made. Yeah. And now it just looks like an old hairy person with corporal tunnel, just like stretched. Like
yeah, well, that's just it. Like my daughter, first time going on the attraction, she did not know that it didn't work. She thought it was going to be this amazing animatronic that we watched the YouTube videos of and the Disney VHSs of before we went to Disney World. And then we get there and she goes on the attraction and she was kind of underwhelmed by it. You know, that was her first time ever finding out that this thing didn't work, was her being on the ride.
Well, and especially when you were a person that went on the ride when the Yeti was working, you could definitely just see and feel the difference. Because, I mean, you could even, when the Yeti was working and you're passing by, you could actually feel the wind of the movement when the arm was moving, like, down to grab you. Like, you could actually feel the force.
Wow.
And it's, you know, and me being a thrill junkie, you just don't have that anymore. And, I mean, probably with Joe Rohde, I mean, awesome Imagineer, but it had to be such a shock to know that so much work went into that. And it only lasted, I think, a year that the Yeti worked. Year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So he promised that he would try to get him back up and running. So hopefully with Avatar there and possibly the future of Animal Kingdom, that maybe someday Everest will go down for a lengthy refurbishment. You never know.
Yep.
And Mindy, what is your underwhelming animatronic?
Okay, so I'm probably going to get flamed for this one, but...
Don't say C-3PO.
No. It's the animatronics inside of Peter Pan. They're so lame. They redid the whole attraction. They shut it down, and they did this amazing display and all these new lights and a new mountain, and you float around, and then you come in and pass over the ship, and all it is the same animatronic that just stands there and goes back and forth. Like, you could have done something a little more overwhelming than just being underwhelming. So I was really disappointed when we went back on that after it had opened again, and I thought, yeah, they could have done a little bit better, because I mean, it's still an animatronic, it still moves and its mouth moves, it just doesn't do anything like Captain Hook, you know, when he's standing on the alligator, he doesn't do anything, he just goes up and down. I mean, they had the time, they could have done something. So that's my little rant. I think they're very underwhelming.
I was actually going to wait until closer to the end of the adventure to disclose mine, but now that you said it first, that I won't get the full flame of people.
That was throw me under the bus.
Yes. Sorry, Mindy. But that was actually, believe it or not, that was my underwhelming. That they did so much with the queue, so much with the beginning sequence, and
Yeah.
especially with the fighting between Peter Pan and Captain Hook, like on the
Right.
ship, that they could have made so much better. And I don't know if it's just me. I've asked several people this, and they're looking at me like I have 5 heads. But when you mentioned about Captain Hook on the mouth of the crocodile at the end, when he's saying, "Smee, help me," I don't hear Captain Hook's voice. It doesn't have like that raspy pirate sound. It sounds like a middle-aged accountant.
I agree. No, 100%. I love that attraction. Don't get me wrong. It's
Oh,
reason
most definitely.
why
Yeah, it's a classic.
it's a classic, and that's why the wait to it is so long. I mean, it's so fun to fly through stars. It's incredible how they do that. The animatronics just suck. They're awful.
But do you guys think? Sorry.
No, it's okay. You didn't interrupt.
So now that they have these 7 dwarfs and Frozen animatronics, where it's the rear projection, and they
Amazing.
look like the cartoons, do you think they're going to go and change all of the Fantasyland ones to match that?
I hope so. I truly hope so. And here's the thing. At Disneyland specifically, the queue is so long because it's all set up like a cottage feel at Disneyland. And so the queue line is actually outside. I know they fixed it at Walt Disney World to where you go through, the Wendy Darling and the kids' playroom and the nursery. And you get to play with the shadows and make the queue line interactive. Well, the story goes, they actually shut down the store next to it. And from what we gather, so the rumor has, is that they're going to actually turn that into an extended queue line for that attraction to get that walkway opened up a bit more so it's not outside, because right now the majority of the queue line is outside. It's a very slow loading attraction, so it's just 2 at a time, and it's not like Walt Disney World's that's a constant moving attraction. This one stops, lets 2 people on, and they move it forward. So it's a really slow loading attraction, and the story goes that they're going to turn the queue line into and pull it through the store, so knock that out and make a really cool queue line. So I'm hoping that that's what the case is, and at that time that they can fix these animatronics, because they can do so much better. I truly believe it's time for them to get a facelift.
Are you talking about the old Village store?
Yeah, it had
Where they
where
exit the...
you could get swords there, or you could get your family's, what's it called? Your family's sign. I don't remember what the word is I'm looking for, but
The crest?
yeah, your crest. You can go in there and get that, and that's the store they closed down. And they used it for Christmas decorations for a while, but it's closed down. So, or they did shut it and close that down. And that's the story from what I understand.
Now, didn't they say all the Fantasyland attractions are due for the upgrade, sort of like with Peter Pan's flight, aside from the animatronics, but like Pinocchio's Daring Journey, Snow White's Scary Adventures?
Yeah, and I know they did it to Alice in Wonderland attraction. They just plussed that to the core. I love it. It's really interactive. They used projection with it and made it really fun. They did so much of Peter Pan, but they can do so much more with it, and definitely plus that. So I'm hoping that those animatronics definitely get an upgrade. They need it.
So from you saying Alice in Wonderland was a hit, more so what they did with the technology, do you still feel that they need to change the facial of the characters themselves, or just leave that?
No, it's pretty good. I mean, the animatronics inside are what they are, but they did it to where they added projection with them, and it just makes so much more of a fun interactive experience. And as you go through, you get to see more and experience more. You see Alice walking, and they project her when you go through down the cave at the first part of it. Alice is projected onto a wall, and you see her running down the rabbit hole and going towards the hole, and it's really cool. And then you see her and that animatronic, and then the Queen of Hearts, and They just definitely plussed it, and it's so much better, and they could have done so much better with Peter Pan.
Can I just say, George, they're actually overdue because the wait time that the Fantasyland rides command, the audience deserves a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
especially for the wait time for Peter Pan's flight. I mean, like
45 minutes
attraction at Fantasyland.
And Fantasyland is tiny and it's crowded and it gets hot and you cannot move. So if you're going to just be in that little Disney mosh pit and wait all that time for a 90-second ride, it should be more than little static things that go up and down. They should plus it with digital projection, new animatronics. It should be worth an hour-long, 2-hour wait.
Yeah, I mean, it would get longer. We know that. And especially making a nursery to be interactive, that would just, I mean, we know that would happen. But with the weights that they are now, I agree 100% that that attraction needs a facelift for those animatronics. I don't even know that they're considered animatronics, but moving plastic mobiles. I mean, they make sound, they go up and down, but that's about all you get. And it definitely needs some more. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I'm glad to know that I wasn't the only one that thought of Peter Pan's flight when it came time for underwhelming animatronics. So now we are moving on to the scariest animatronic. Just an animatronic that can just freak you out and can either make you wet your pants or make a complete mess in the ride vehicle. We'll start with you, Jay.
Well, it's a good thing my ride vehicle for this one's a dune buggy because they're easily hosed out. I'm going to go to Paris for this one because video and photos don't do it. It is the Phantom and the Hellhound when you exit Phantom Manor. He is tall and imposing and above you, but he finally has his mask off and you can see the skull underneath, the rotting skull. He's just a really uncomfortable and unpleasant animatronic that has dug a grave for you that you're falling down. The voice of Vince and the laughter of Vincent Price comes out. And next to him is a rotting skeletal hellhound, which just, it looks like it's going to, the motion looks like it's going to leap out and bite you.
See, again, folks, it's definitely a park to take your kids to. So.
That sounds like my type of attraction.
You're going to have to post a photo of that because I gotta see that one for myself.
Yeah, it's a really cool one because it's the same ride track as Disneyland, so it's where you exit the attic, but you've exited the bride's boudoir, and you come out into the yard, and there's the Phantom, and he's dug a grave, and he has got you. And from that point, you tip back where you fall in the mansion. This you go through your grave, through open graves. It just gets better and better.
Wow.
In a morbid kind of way, it's great.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like my kind of attraction because I either like getting scared or something that seems scary but won't scare me because I'm just so used to it.
Phantom Manor is awesome. You need to go to Paris. You need to ride this attraction. It is the best version of Haunted Mansion there is. It was the ride we did 5 times that day.
Wow. Are the lines as equal as the domestic parks for like a popular attraction like that?
I'm going to give everyone a travel tip. The best time to go to Paris is August because that's when the Parisians go on vacation and the town is empty. So we went to Disneyland on a Saturday and it was walk-ons because everyone's out of town. We didn't wait more than 10 minutes for an attraction the whole day.
And the weather was decent?
Weather was great, and just like the city was deserted. Some stores were closed because everyone's on holiday. Best time to visit the city.
I'll have to mark that on my calendar. So I might have to do that for one of my birthday trips because my birthday's in August.
You've got to go. You guys would all love DLP. It's like if you had a dream about Disneyland, it's what you'd see in your dreams.
Wow. Well, moving on that note, Stan, what's your scary animatronic?
Now, I was thinking about this one, And I know for some reason this one scares a lot of people, but I just don't get it. But the Connoisseur and the Dinosaur Attraction, which is one of the biggest working animatronics in Disney World, and I don't know, I'm not picking that one, but that's getting an honorable mention because I know it does scare a lot of people. But for creepiness, I have to go with Hopper in the Bug's Life. That's an 8-foot tall animatronic, and it's a very well done animatronic. You get the eyes moving, the fingers moving, all the arms, the wings. That's my pick for the creepiest of all the animatronics for sure.
I could definitely see that because I remember the first time I went into It's Tough to Be a Bug, I knew where Hopper was placed in the theater before he came out. So I purposely sat myself in that area, not to know what to expect, but what got me the most was when he made his entrance and you actually hear the wings of him as that's the part that actually didn't scare me, but it startled me.
Yeah. It's very, very well done animatronic for sure.
And they don't have that attraction at DCA anymore, so I'm glad that Animal Kingdom still has that. Because something Marvel comes this way. And Mindy, what is your scary animatronic?
Okay, so it's spooky, but the Hatbox Ghost inside the Haunted Mansion. Epic, epic, epic. I'm so glad they brought him back. It's so cool to see him in his original form. He was there when it first opened, so people have seen, or there's a couple pictures floating around, and it disappeared. Nobody quite knows where it went, and it had been rumored that it was there, but he got famous. He was just the Hatbox Ghost. Everybody knew about him, but they put him back after it being closed and refurbishing it, and now there's a Hatbox Ghost, and it's incredible to see. It's very spooky. He's so cool. His head ends up lighting up in the Hatbox holder that he has. It's just really cool to see, and if you're not prepared for it, it can kind of jump out at you.
When did they bring him back? Was it
not too long ago? I mean, Jason, when was that? Do you remember?
Was it for the 60th or the 55th?
Yeah, I think it was the 55th. Don't quote me on that, but it was not too long ago, but he's pretty new.
The Hatbox Ghost is one of those animatronics that doesn't move very fast like the newer animatronics, but just his presence there of what he does and with the special effects, it just makes him a very unique animatronic.
And he wasn't there for very long after the attraction first opened. He kind of became a thing of legend because so many people had never seen him, but they have heard of him. So when they announced that he was coming back, it was a pretty big deal for Disneyland.
Well, he wasn't in the ride, but he was in like every single published book they had. They had the famous photograph of Yale Gracie doing the test.
Yes.
And so he just kind of was there, but not there. We all remember. He became a legend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this says, I'm just going to read something from USA Today. It says, but then stories emerged from a reputable source, as did a handful of grainy photos, that it did obviously exist and document the memorabilia. Now the myth turned legend as it comes home, rejoining his 998 spirit companions inside of Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. The Hatbox Ghost has risen from the dead technology to become a featured attraction of the park's most popular ride. And this was dated July 15th, 2015. So just 3 years.
So while the Hatbox Ghost was away, was there room for two more other than just room for one more?
I don't know, but I'm making a prediction for Disney World's 50th. He's coming to the mansion.
Yeah. And I'm gonna have to add my subpar one if we're talking about the Haunted Mansion. And this one can scare you. I remember being a little kid and being scared to death of it. But they're not, I don't know if you'd call them animatronics, but at the end, when you float past your mirror and you get your little animatronic and he ends up in your car with you, your doom buggy, in between you and your companion, that he's floating next to you. So that can be pretty scary for a little kid. They don't know where this ghost is coming from. So that's probably my...
Mindy, were you like me? Would you hop back on if you didn't get the ghost you wanted?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had one of those visual effects at the end where the ghost is on top of you and pulls your head off and then switches heads. Well, there must have been a glitch. So when he pulled my head off, my face wasn't there.
Oh.
So he essentially was wearing nothing. I was like, oh man, that's a bummer.
That's funny.
You know, to take it back to scariest at Phantom Manor, when you exit that scene, rather than having the ghost sitting next to you, the Phantom comes up behind you, head first and then arms, and so you can't look over and not see him next to you. It looks like he's coming to get you through the mirror.
Interesting.
So now we are moving on to the funniest animatronic. One that just may not even meant to be funny, but just one that just tickles your funny bone. Just maybe the way it moves, maybe the way it looks, I kind of have one, but I don't know if I could actually say it without offending a lot of people. But let's, so Jay, what's yours?
My favorite, most lovable one is going back to the mansion. It's the mummy in the Haunted Mansion. He's so adorable. It's towards the end when you make the exit, and he's on the left up on a hill, and he's sitting in his sarcophagus drinking his tea, and he's just this really adorable looking animatronic with this really adorable voice because the face is muffled. He's going rah, 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 rah. And standing next to him is Father Time with the olden timey hearing aid.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Is that at Disneyland?
It's at both.
I don't know what you're talking about. Why am I not thinking? I've been on that ride a ton of times.
When you're exiting, when you're coming to the end of the graveyard, and the opera singers are on the right, they're up on the left.
Oh, okay. Up on the hill, and he's got his legs crossed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That's like the most adorable animatronic to me.
Yeah, that is funny.
Only Jay would come up with that one.
It's that voice. That voice kills me because he's just...
And Stan, what's yours?
Well, I know this animatronic tries to be funny, but his jokes don't quite hit the mark. And it's not my pick, but it's my honorable mention with the Sunny Eclipse is my honorable mention. But the one that actually does make me laugh is the Mr. Potato Head at Disneyland, where you're waiting in the queue, and he calls out on the people waiting in line, and kind of, this is some Don Rickles one-liners on him. That's my
I love
my
Don.
funny one.
God love him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember there were times where luckily I went into the attraction when it reopened as Toy Story Land, and we went really late to ride Midway Mania, and there was no line whatsoever, and the park was about to close, and I thought, I'm just going to just stand here and just have some one-on-one time with Mr. Potato Head.
And were you called a hockey puck at all?
Yes, I was, actually.
There you go. That's the honor when you go to Disneyland or Disney World and you get called a hockey puck by Mr. Potato Head. That's a badge of honor.
Now, they don't do because they said that the program doesn't work anymore where he pulls his ear off and puts it back in. He doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah. No, that would be, that's kind of a shame it doesn't work anymore, but I have seen pictures of him missing his face.
Yeah.
Video of him missing his face trying to put his ear back in, so you can kind of see why they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
it's something funny to see for sure.
Well, it's like, yeah, he dropped his ear, so he had to be holding something. Mindy, what about you?
Okay, I'm going to go with Roz in Monsters, Inc. It's the very end. It's hilarious. So she sits there with her clipboard and picks you apart. I'm not sure if there's really a person in there, but they do know who's you in the front row. Hey, Four Eyes. Like, it's hilarious. It's so funny to hear her just pick you apart, and it's pretty funny. I love that animatronic.
You actually did that really well. You should get in touch with Pixar.
What are you looking at? It's great. So it makes me laugh every time I go on that attraction.
Awesome. So, passengers, we want to thank you for joining us this evening for tonight's episode of Disney's Audio Animatronics. We hope that you enjoyed listening to our thoughts and opinions on it, and Ken, take us home.
If you would like to keep the adventure going after the show, be sure to like our Facebook friends page, Grand Circle Tour Magical Ticket Holders. While on Facebook, like our group page, Grand Circle Tour. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Grand Circle Tour Podcast, as well as Instagram, GCT Podcast, and our YouTube channel, Grand Circle Tour. If you would like to send us a message, you can email us at gctpodcast@gmail.com. T-shirts and other fun merchandise can be found at tpublic.com. Simply search Grand Circle Tour Podcast. If you enjoyed your adventure, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Only one rule, make it good. Thank you for riding with us, and welcome home.